Everybody, we must be one. Everybody, we must be one.
Welcome to the Hughes Roundtable.
Everybody.
So glad that you could join us today.
Yep.
I'm Nina,
I'm Michaela.
And I'm Michael.
and we want you to know that you can find us on youtube.com. Type in the Hughes Roundtable and then click on videos, and that will upload all the episodes that we have recorded thus far. Now, today is a very special time for us.
Mm-hmm.
We are here with our daughter, Michaela, and
Mhm.
we have entitled this
The one and only.
featuring Michaela Hughes. Hello, Michaela.
Hi.
The one and
Hello.
only. You just our only child.
Yeah.
Shh. Look at this. You know, our only child.
Mm-hmm.
So how is it being the only child?
People ask me that, and I never know what to say because this is the only life I've known.
Right.
So I can't compare it to being. I really probably didn't notice until middle school that there is a difference between kids who have, tons of siblings and kids who are only children. I had a music teacher in middle school who told me being an only child builds character. So
If you let it.
I don't know what that means,
If
but
you let it.
I really can't say what is true about being an only child because I just know how I am. And I agree, I guess. If
Yeah.
you let it, that it can. You spend more time by yourself, obviously. You probably have a little bit more mature conversations maybe than your peers because you're around adults more.
We talked a lot about you being the only child though when you was
Mhm.
growing up. A whole lot.
Yeah.
We talked about how the perspective you look at,
Mhm.
how we're your brother and sister, mother and father and grandmother at that time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you're the oldest, the baby, and all of that, because people look at you as the only child and they say that you're spoiled. And Nina, you say
Well,
what
we
to
have a
that?
bad reputation.
That's not, I think Michaela and I was discussing it maybe yesterday, and I was discussing it with someone else earlier, I think maybe last week. And people have different definitions of spoiled. Usually when the majority, I think, of people say that, they're trying to be nice by saying that a child is rotten or that they're
Bratty.
no good. Yes,
Ugh.
bratty. But in Michaela's case, her being spoiled is being loved. It was
Yeah.
never a lot of material things. I think that iPhone was the first thing that she really ever got that she wanted, that
Yeah.
she requested, because she is not a child that asks for anything. Well, she was not a child. She's a young adult now, but she never asked for anything. So her spoiled, when we say that she's spoiled as her parents, I guess we should just go ahead and say that she's loved in a manner of sense. And hopefully, all parents are loving their children, but in the sense that when it came to going places or saying leave the child behind, this is an adult affair only, and we're like, okay, and other people would have children, but somebody else is watching the kids so that they could. We never did that. It was like, oh, okay, well, if it's for adults only, but you have children, what you're doing with the kids, then this is not an event for us, because we don't want to take our daughter and drop her off so that we can go. And we still had our time as husband and wife, but our love extended beyond, I guess, what we would say, we just gonna make sure we do what we want to do and put you off and leave you here or there, and we didn't do that. So always made sure, tried to, that she was well taken care of and understood maybe what was going on, explain things to her, even though, as the adults, you don't have to,
Right.
but to say this is the reason that this is being done, even if she did not understand, but now as a young adult, she can remember things being told to her and saying that. So her spoiled is that she is loved.
I agree with that.
Where's your other brothers and sisters at?
I don't have those.
You didn't?
I'm not, and I don't
Your
care.
mother didn't have no more brothers. She didn't have no more kids.
I don't care. I asked Mom like a week ago if she could, would she have had another kid, and she said she would have gave you a boy.
I ain't never heard that. Ever.
We had
30
discussed
years.
that before.
Never ever heard that before.
Uh-huh. You said that if I had went ahead and put the Mac on you again, you would have gave me another
funny.
baby.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
So you enjoy that?
I don't even be thinking about stuff.
Well, what
I'm just so like settled in my life. I'm just like I'm here and I'm content. I
Okay,
don't
for
have any
the
problem.
people that's going to be out here listening to it now. I mean, So how you moving then?
How do I move?
How do you move as an only child, a 23-year-old graduate, college?
How do I move? I will say, as far as the love aspect,
Mm-hmm.
and my outlook, I guess I feel like I only pay attention to it because people have told me like that there's a noticeable difference in your character when you're an only child. So,
Which most only childs are selfish.
I am selfish when it comes to being intolerant of a lot of things. Like I don't tolerate a lot of bull crap to be
Okay.
like
Oh my.
just to
that's
be
right.
clear. I don't
No, you don't. You don't.
I like for people to be genuine, typical
Mhm.
things that most people would expect from others. But I do feel like I have a little bit shorter of a fuse when it comes to that.
You got
I
a
don't.
temper?
No.
You're angry?
No.
Her tolerance.
Her tolerance.
Inwardly, there are some things like disrespect. I can't tolerate that. Or like I've dealt with men or boys, whatever you prefer. And I'm not very tolerant of just attitudes or
Mhm.
I just have this level of respect I expect from you. And if you don't meet that, I'm not moving from that. Like, I don't tolerate any type of verbal abuse. And I'm just saying this because I've had experiences with men and women, and I've looked at the things that some of my friends have put up with and just people I've, mutuals. And I'm just like, me and Mom were just talking about this yesterday. Why would you tolerate that? I don't understand. Why would you allow that? And I do think that's because I've spent time with myself and I know what irritates me and what I just will not. There's just things I'm not going to move from. I'm not going to change my expectations when it comes to people like that. But I share a lot and I care a lot. And when I'm around people who do have siblings and the way that they interact, it's interesting to me because I'm like, why aren't you more loving? But I've never had a sibling. I'm an only child. So I can't really, what they would call, they're playing or, I don't know, just things that people would say to one another. I would never do that because I'm all about, loving, try to share some and, be kind to people. And I love to help people. So anything, I just want everything to be positive. And sometimes it's not realistic for people to interact that way. So my standards of my social standards are a little different than someone that has lots of siblings probably would be. I just don't have, everything needs to be nice all the time, basically. Nice and,
But is that
flowery.
reality though?
No. And that's what I think.
Where's your
The
are you
balance.
whole by that right there? Yeah, where's the balance at?
Well, I'm not married to that idea. So I'm
Okay.
I realize that I'm that way and that there's situations that are almost cringeworthy when I'm around people and the way that they speak to other people. But I understand that my perspective is based on my experience, and I don't expect other people to meet that idea when they communicate with other people. And I stay out of people's business. So however you communicate with people, you do that. But I'm not going to do that. But I do realize that, people have tones, and the way that they communicate is not the same way. They have attitudes, and, everyone's different.
So where's your release at for that? Where's your release at for you? Because we know, me and your mother, you hold a lot of stuff in.
Yes.
So where is your release at to let
That's
that go?
That's a good question. Honestly, I need to find more releases, I think. More consistent
So what
releases.
are you doing now, though?
I write.
As that? Because we'll have an episode about, it's going to be called SOS Watch.
Mm-hmm.
You just dealt with losing somebody
mm-hmm.
when you're in the 7th grade. What grade are you in now?
Not in a grade anymore.
Okay.
No more school.
I went low. I went high on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we know that if you don't get that out.
Yeah.
So
it becomes
what
toxic.
release are you dealing with? I mean, what release are you using now to release all of what you just said about not being? And is that a reality that you're living?
I journal.
Okay, that's good.
I try to journal. I've been doing this since the summer. I'm new to it. So at least 3 times a week. And I don't just write.
Not a diary.
I don't
You're
really
too
know
old
the difference.
For a diary, aren't you?
Diaries are like the place you keep secrets.
No.
Journal.
Oh.
I journal just to see where my head is, so then
wow.
I can read it like the next day or
Let's just do
weekend.
that.
Yeah, and see what were you thinking about? What are the consistency? So I wake up, which sometimes isn't good because waking up and doing something is not always an accurate depiction of how you feel. Because you're just waking up, so everything's a little blurry. But
you're learning something new today. How about you?
I journal just to see how I feel. So I write today I don't feel good, and I get straight to the point. Like I don't feel valuable today. I think I wrote that a lot in the summer and stuff like that.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah, and then what else? Just
so
stuff like that.
How often do you do the negative, and how often?
By
is
the
the positive?
end, so I just kind of made this like informal kind of process of writing. So the first is go through feelings. How do I feel? Things I want to work on, goals, and then the last is like changes. How am I going to deal with this?
Oh, wow.
I want to get better at looking at things as a journey instead of trying to. I'm very analytical. I try to. My mind works like a puzzle or like a game of chess or a maze. Those are the only.
Yeah.
And they're categorized in tabs. So my mind works like here's an idea, put a pin in that. Here's another idea, put a pin in that. And there's like just a million things. But sometimes instead of seeing something as here's an idea, let's work on this throughout the course of a couple months, it's more like here's an idea. How about you fix this right now so we can work on something else? And that's just not, that's completely irrational. And that's something I'm trying to kind of get over and find a more healthier way to deal with, because not dealing with that kind of is the reason why you get worries and anxiety and depression. And when you don't deal with those types of thought processes, that's when you can't function right without your mind being clear. So that's one way. I'm trying to talk to you guys more
please
about, I wasn't good at that, I don't think, through high school, all of probably
but you
most
bad,
of my
though,
life,
considering
compared to people
you ain't
I
really
know.
had no other choice. Who else was you gonna talk to?
And I don't talk to other people. That's the
right.
thing.
I don't know what's wrong with that. But
My
not
friends,
personal.
Yeah, my friend a couple days ago told me that he feels like he doesn't know me.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Because I've known him for several years, and it's like, what do you mean? And to me, I've shared enough. You know where I live, and you know what I look like, and that's enough. You don't need to. I am one of those people that I feel like if you can't help me with my situation, I'm not telling you.
Yeah.
Because in my
How
head,
you know they can't help you though?
well, that's another irrational thing. Because I feel like in my head, you if you have no solutions, and I don't need any support, no emotional support, no physical support. Like, that's how I think. I just want you to, if you can't fix the problem, I'm not telling you, because I'm trying to fix the problem. Right. I don't want I don't want your compassion or anything. Really hard on myself about stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I do feel bad, but I'm also not changing that aspect. I think I'm good enough just with you two. And because also you have to think, the more people you tell, you have to filter through their, so there's a lot of that I just don't want to go through. But I'm hoping to get better, and a lot of things have happened around me. I think just in society, we're being a little bit more aware of mental health and just, social health and things like that. So I'm trying to get better, and I've visited, dealing with mental health very young. So I'm pretty sure, of the areas I need to get stronger in. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Speak to that. You did. Speak to that mental health part right there, that piece right there about y'all's age group not submitting to the fact that they might be dealing with something, and also you may not be. Thanks be to God that you have a sober mind. Because what you just said to us, which we already knew, we're just letting everybody else know. If you were smoking the cheese, which is marijuana, if you were drinking Xanax, Adderall, anything that clouded your mind, that just think about that right there. Your mind being on something else other than what it's on. So, thanks be to God, you're a sober-minded person, and a lot of that is me, your mother, and you have a grandmother, or you used to have a grandmother who passed away. We talked about her. I hear that in her too. So
a little stubbornness.
A little stubbornness, and hard to receive. Hard to take instructions from people you don't necessarily know. So we want to live in reality and realize that you have a male and a female mind. You said you don't need the emotional support, but think of a scenario if you were married that way, the way you are.
Not good.
You're really the male.
Yeah, I don't.
Would you agree with that, Nina?
And that's not good. It's not good.
Her mind is thinking, because the men are going to keep it simple.
Yeah.
I'm going to work this out.
Give me the answer.
I'm not sharing this with anyone. We just going to leave it the way that it is, and I'm going to work through it by myself.
Which is good. It's not bad. To a certain extent.
But also it comes from being an only child too. Yeah. Because not only the sharing of toys, informations, because siblings interact, whether what you saw was good or bad, the way that they interact with each other, with the tones and not being kind to one another, but there's an interaction with someone in your age group, your peers, that you missed out on a closeness.
Yeah, you did.
That it would be a sibling being up under the same roof or gathering together. That brings out things when we interact with one another that you didn't get from that. Even though, we would talk.
That's kind of our fault, though.
Missing out on that.
That's our fault. We kept you close to that. We really did. You went everywhere with us.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. When you was born, from It ain't even till now.
True.
Which we don't care.
Mm-mm.
In
I don't care either.
some families they want to, but you'll be doing what you're doing on your own. But so we got work to do too, because you were an only child.
Mm-hmm.
If you had more siblings, you probably
Wouldn't do
no,
that.
we wouldn't be taking 2 and 3 kids with us everywhere we went.
Oh. That's true.
We wouldn't be
That's true.
doing that. So in order to be whole, we have to talk about that, and we have to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So and you know that we talk a lot.
Yeah.
We do talk a lot, and we pry a lot.
Yeah.
So because we understand the age we living in right now with social media, mental health, and you are our only child too, just like you're an only child. So we didn't know what we was doing. I said we didn't know what we was doing. I remember when I told you that at 12 years old. I said, you got to be patient with us. We ain't never had to,
Yeah.
So at sometimes you would think that you're getting ganged up on because it's me and your mom. I know you probably felt that at some time, But in reality, hey, we had to make a decision
Yeah.
to raise you.
Mm-hmm.
We had to learn how to separate being a friend and being a brother and a sister, because we would have loved for you to have a brother and a sister and family members and stuff like that, But keeping with what we're trying to do here, we want to let people know that they're not the only ones in dealing with what you're dealing with.
No.
That's why I asked you, how are you releasing that?
Yeah, I try to have several releases. And being creative, that's like just ideas on top of ideas. So you kind of have to, when you find the thing you love, you have to have a release.
You do.
Because that's
just something else.
That's a whole
Wouldn't
nother
you agree,
subject.
Nina?
Yeah.
That's
So
Being creative,
Mm-hmm.
that's something else too.
right
it,
now
it is an outlet.
It
Yeah.
is.
It is. It's definitely
its own
an
outlet.
outlet, because, like your dad said, you hold in, and that's not good, because it keeps building and building and building. Like back in the day, they would use the pressure cookers to do the food, and if you didn't do it correctly or a certain way, and it had that top on there that spinned, and it was like if you open it up too soon, all that, it could boom.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that goes back to when Dad was talking about being sober minded, and I was just thinking, and this is just an idea, but it's work to be sober minded. Like even when you're not on anything, you can be cloudy.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
You can not be sober minded, but be sober. Like
right.
like
That's right.
you cannot be on any drugs,
That's
or
true.
like
true.
you're not taking anything.
That's true.
But life just, and sometimes your perspective of things can kill you
You better believe
without even adding anything to it. Like just you and maybe your experiences, your growing up, it can downright kill you. So it's work. It's just
and
a
that's
want.
No good at 23.
No, and
Because
it's
y'all supposed to be
interesting
full of
because
life,
we
having
haven't.
fun.
Yeah, we haven't. I still say this, and I've experienced a lot, I believe, but I haven't experienced much, and I definitely haven't reached the heights of the things I want to experience yet. So I can't. It's interesting because now that we have so much access to literally anything, it's easy to jump to conclusions about yourself and the world around you and how those two things relate and where you fit in this world. When as a teenager in your early 20s, what have you really seen? You don't even have no money to go nowhere, so you haven't experienced the world very much. You haven't really got a clear outlook of what is really out there, and yet you have faced so much defeatism. I don't know if that's a word, but you've seen so much. You feel so negative, but what do you have that is real that is evidence that supports that idea. There's not really much that supports the idea or the want to be a negative person or to have a downward attitude or mindset besides the fact that you put these ideas in your head.
You
know?
did.
And so that's one of my things, is just stop adding to the problem. Like, don't make it any worse than it is, which is, I think, something we all do.
You've just listened to part 1 of The One and Only. We have so much more to discuss on this subject. We'll discuss more on mental wellness, which will hopefully encourage you to be the best you can be. As always, you can find us on YouTube at the Hughes Roundtable. Be sure to subscribe so you can be the first to see our new episodes. Thank you so much for listening, and make sure you listen to part 2 of The One and Only. Bye-bye.
Everybody, we must be one. Everybody, we must be one.